Okay, so here we go. So this is the first class of the breakthrough course, and what we'll be covering is basic fundamentals from values, form, to shapes, to form, lines, negative, positive space, textures, colors, materials. Just if you can, and hold off on any end, please hold the end. So questions till the if I can answer them afterwards, you know, then I will. All right, so let's get started. I'm just gonna really, right now I'm just gonna just cover the basics as quick as I can, and then we'll get on to the part, the sketch. All right. So a lot of this is just going to be explanation on the core, and then we'll do core basics and do hands-on. I like to discuss what I like to do, and go over first and foremost is value, because to me and to a lot of artists that is by far the most that's important thing that you could any piece of art have in it. Because without value you can't determine what exists, and you can't see things for what they are. So value is described as the lightness and darkness of tones and colors. White being the lightest value, black being the darkest value, is the in-between value. Gray, and nothing exists or can be seen without value, and that's so true. Value makes up the shape and form of an object. And down here, let's see. So down here, you have your different shades of gray, known as, grayscale values. So, you start from the lightest, and then you end up at the darkest. And then you have the in-between. Okay? And not every area of gray is going to be used in a piece of art, but if you stick to, the basis of it, like you have your white, you have your black, then you have right here, right here, right here. That's pretty much the basics, and then everything else just fills in the gaps. Okay. So that's that, and that's one of the things that, and I to go over. I would love to actually do hands-on and have us all sketch the values and apply it to objects, so you get an understanding on the form from light to dark. Okay. Next thing I'll be discussing is shape and form. And with shapes and form, for shapes you have your basic shapes, which is limited to 2 dimensions of length and width. Basically, it's a flat shape in space, 2-dimensional. There's no form to it. There's no definition. It's just flat. Okay. And then you have your form, which is more of a 3-dimensional geometrical figure. And as you can see the examples here, let me zoom in. You can see the difference between between the shape and the form. So you have your basic shape, and then you have your geometric shapes, which make up the circumference or area of, you know, the space. And it's achieved by having the correct values, you know, having the correct lighting, shades of gray all the way to dark. Okay, and then down here you have your different, I just have like different examples of where the light is hitting. So you have hitting here, all right. You know, you have like the light here, right, and then it's hitting here, and then you can see as it motions around, and then eventually it's all dark. Okay. Same thing here. The light's hitting here, and then it's hitting here, and then a little bit further back, and then until it's completely dark. And you can just see on the different examples how the light works around and the direction and everything. Alright. So next example that I would like to cover is this is basically showing the spear where the highlight hits. Oops. Where the highlight hand hits, and the highlight is the most intense source of light, so that's where your direct light is gonna be coming from, whether it be the sun, artificial light, you know, whatever the case may be. And the light works its way back to the midtones, and here your midtones will fall in. Okay, and the midtones is the range of tones between your light and dark source. So from the midtones you come to the core shadow. Your core shadow falls in right here. Alright, your core shadow is just basically what defines the edge of your subject of your object. It's what's falling back into the you know, to the background. So that's what's making up your actual definition, your surface. Then you have your cast shadow. Alright, and your cast shadow, you know, is what the object is, it's emitting, you know, because that's what's turning away from the light itself. So your object is emitting that on whatever the surface is that it's setting on. And then the shadow will also, it will start from a darker and work its way to a lighter until it's almost like faded. Okay, and I have like, but it can also depend on the time of day to determine, you know, how thick or how soft the shadow is going to be. And also determines how harsh the light is, how soft the light is. Down here I have 2 examples for cast shadow. You have a picture of an apple, and you have a picture of a light. The light's casting a shadow on the wall. The apple's casting a shadow on the ground. And one thing to remember about cast shadows is it will fall at an angle. Basically, you meet the shadow with whatever it is, of whatever the top and whatever the bottom of the object. Okay, the light is coming from here. Alright, it's hitting the object and it's casting the object down this way. Okay? You guys following along with me so far? Okay, cool. Alright, same thing here. A little bit more complicated object, but the same thing applies. Your light, it's casting down. Oops. You have your top, your bottom. It's just taking basically what the object is and casting it onto the surface behind it. Now, depending on how far the light source is, and a lot of times you could just fake it, you know where the light is, because nobody really can, you know, definitely determine where the light is unless you have an actual light source that you drew, you know, in the piece. But if it's, you know, your basic sun, then it all determines on the time of day, you know, whatever the case may be, to determine how much of a shadow it's going to cast from the object, like at whatever angle it's at. Okay, and one important one that I wanted to discuss, somebody brought it to my attention, and I wanted to actually give a few examples down here, is reflected light, which is your bounce light. And reflected light is your light reflecting off an object. Okay, so here I have 3 examples. I have 2 examples of an egg. I have one in value, and I have one in color. Okay, same principle applies. The bounce light, or reflected light, is okay. So here's your light source. All right, it's coming towards the object. Shadow. You have your cast, but you also have your surface right here. And let me get a better. You have your surface, and what it's doing is it's reflecting the light back onto the object. So light goes around and it hits right here and it reflects it right back onto the object. Okay? As you can see, there's some redness happening right here on the object. Alright? Same thing applies over here in the grayscale. The only difference is you can't see the actual color that's being bounced onto the egg. It's just, you know, it's just a light value. Okay. And then here's a great example right here that I pulled off online. The light source is coming from here, somewhere around this area. Alright, it's coming down. And this is the color that is bouncing off of the light. The light works its way around. The color bounces back onto the surface that is away from the light. Okay? So that's reflected light. And reflected light is kind of a tricky one for a lot of people, so I really wanted to go into detail on that one. Kind of struggled with that one myself, and I know in the beginning. Okay, so to discuss before we get into the next thing, I wanted to clear that out, the sketching part, is lines in negative/positive space. All right, and this is just a brief overview of it. Basically, just marks this for lines. It's based on marks the span, a distance between 2 points. Okay, all that is you have a line. It's got a point A. That's it. Line can be anything, and it's got a point B. From a curve to a straight line to a horizontal, jagged, but it's always got a point A and a point B. Okay. Of course, you have your different types of lines too. You have, you have line thickness. You have thin. You have thin. You have thick lines. You have contour lines. You have gestural lines. Lines just vary. Lines are great for if you want to make the form of an object. So say something like that. It's a little rough, but the lines are basically making the form of the object, making the illusion that the object, and that's correct, has space, that it has or that it has mass, and it's working its way around. Okay. And then we have negative and positive space. All right. Basically, it consists of background, foreground, and middle ground. It's the distance and area around or in between objects. Your negative space will be white, and your positive space will be black. Basically, your silhouette. The black is, and the negative space is what's falling in between your silhouettes. This is a great way to separate objects from foreground to the middle ground to the background. All right, I'll give you an example. And I'll be covering this later on too in the compositional or perspective class. Okay, so let me grab a vector here. All right. Create, and we're just going to basic shapes. Nothing too serious. Okay, so first we'll lay down this shape. All right. And we'll copy it down. Adjust the brightness. Transform it. All right. And we'll lay that behind that object. Copy that down. Let's transform it a little bit like that. Okay. Bring down the brightness a little bit more. All right. So then there's that object, okay? So let's do it one more time, or maybe a couple more times. Let's bring the brightness down on that. And let's transform it. Okay. So basically, you see, hold on. Yeah. You see how it's like kind of fading back, giving that illusion, as if it's, it's going into the background. Don't want to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to cover that, show it's like depth of field, and plus you add like negative space in between. So I don't know, something like that. That's just a basic, real basic example. As the object goes, or as the view goes further back, of course it's going to fade more and more. Oops. Okay, just decided not to work on me. Alright, anyway. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it will be recorded, so. Alright, so now that we covered all the basics, actually I'll go ahead and take any questions you guys might have. What device am I using? I'm just using an iPad. I'm using an iPad mini. So if you guys don't have any questions, if nobody else has any questions, I'll go ahead and move to the next one. What device am I using for the negative space? If you're referring to the tool, just using the vector tool. I don't draw negative space. It just happens within the art. It's it's not something that it's not something that I plan. It's just basically distinguishing between your objects. But like say like you have a silhouette of a person. All right. Okay, and let's say they got their hand on their hip or something like that, and they have another arm coming up with their hand on their head. I mean, this is how I look at negative space. All right, it's just basically being able to read what, and I could be wrong, but I mean that's if you want to get technical and everything. I mean, but the way I see it, it's being able to read what your object is supposed to be reading as. as long as you can tell what your object, your character, whatever is doing, or whatever it's supposed to be reading as, then then you're achieving what what you wanted to achieve. Like I said, I could be wrong, but that's what I gather from it. The vase or the face? I'm drawn to the faces. Other people might be drawn to the vase. So I instantly see the faces. Yeah, no problem. Alright, so basically I just wanted to cover the basics of that um, and everything else. And now we can move on to actually hands-on, actually doing it. Alright, so first of all, if you guys are actually working in your canvas, that would be great because the rest of it's going to be hands-on. I'm gonna be doing the same thing that you're doing. So if you guys want to sketch alongside me, if you just want to watch, then great. If not, that's fine too. All right, so I'm just gonna, and the rest of this is just gonna be basically kind of freehand. Just showing you what I do, and you know. So what I like to do is, all right, go to vector, create a circle, go to like a middle gray. All right, and just make a circle like that. I mean, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be creating the form around the circle, around the sphere. And right now it's flat, so it's a shape. And what we're doing is creating a form out of it. And like I said, you guys can follow me along with this, or you could just, you could just watch and do it later if you want. Now what I'm going to do, so I'm going to select a brush. I'm going to lower the values. Oops. Take circle off. And then I'm just going to go over and lower the opacity. Just lay down values. Just laying down values. And it's great to color pick because then you can color pick next to the value that you want. And I use this like religion. I always use color pick because it just makes it a quick process. I'm on a race. I am on a race. No wonder it's doing that. Okay. Let me delete all that. Alright, make sure I'm not on erase. Alright. There we go. Okay. Raise the opacity. Alright. So yeah, just dropping values. color picking, blending them in. And all I'm doing is selecting the nearest value. Okay. Just working my way around. Just continue working my way around. All right. How do you do gallery and stream at the same time? Hey, Mangu, you here, man? Would you mind answering that? Or if you know? If you don't mind. Okay, and now I'm selecting a little bit darker. I'm doing like the coarse shadow. Alright. Oops, thought I was on. Alright. Okay. Yeah, I normally just I just stream on my iPad and I look at chat on my phone, or vice versa. Don't really worry about if it's smooth or not. You can always go back with like a soft brush or whatever. If you want a smooth surface, if you're going for a smooth look. Just add a little bit darker value. Okay, I'm gonna throw in some light up here. The thing about values is you want to work your way up, unless you have a point of interest where you want the most contrast, and if that's the case, then you want to make sure you have your darks and your lights pretty high contrast. But for the middle part, for like where the details and stuff will fall into place, you want to make sure that your values read and they're cohesive with each other. You don't want too much separation, because then it will throw off the illusion. Alright, throw a little bit more highlight in here. Yeah, throw a little bit more highlight in here. And I'm not, whenever I paint or draw, I'm not like grinding. And what I mean by that is I'm not like, like that. What I'm doing, I'm working my fingers, I'm kind of stippling finger around, or pin, or whatever the case may be. And I'm just kind of like stippling, I'm just keeping everything soft and loose. And see, it's starting to come together. All right, add a little bit more light. If you have to, you can always drop the opacity. You know, if you feel it's too, rough, too hard, or vice versa, you can, raise the opacity if you feel it's too soft. All right. One key thing that I would say is try to stay away from the whitest white or the darkest dark until you get to an area where, the object actually falls to where it's the darkest shadow. Like, because if you go too white, you can never, you can go back, but, you have to kind of work in the values. But if you go too white, it's hard to go back. It's hard to, to make it darker. Or vice versa, dark to make it lighter. Just steadily work. So it's always best to just work your way to that point. If that makes sense. But you never want to go too white, and you never want to go too dark. And I've always made that mistake myself, is always going too white. Of course, unless you're working with, negative space and one time you want to go too white is when you're doing like your pin light or your real fine edge light. And see, that's the purest, that's the purest white on here. Right there is that pin light right there. Let's see how that reads. That's as white as it's going to get. Of course, unless I use a filter, which that will just blow it out. Like if I use if I use like Dodge or something like that. Alright, I'm going to work back to the core shadow. And even if you put too much dark or too much white, too much black or too much white, you can always color pick it and just, work the values around. Now, you don't have to necessarily follow the way or shadow, like comfortable, an easy way, if you have and a certain technique that you use, personally find easy way of doing it. So if you have your own, so there's a cool, it's whatever makes you feel comfortable. I'm just showing you, and then back here we have the or a way that I then go with that. The reflected light. Let's drop the value a little more. Reflected light is going to be, that's going to be about 3/4, or about 1/4 up from the widest source, like in grayscale. It's not going to be too white. It's just going to be slightly. Alright, so there you have your reflected light. Okay. Now we do the shadow. Actually, you could just, if you want to, this is kind of a cheat, but it's effective. Just copy this down, go into filter, make it dark. Alright, if you want to do it the natural way, feel free. Alright. Hey, am I back? Sorry guys, I froze up. Were you guys able to follow what I did? That's kind of a cheat way of doing it, but you could actually just do the shadow itself. Just grab a soft brush. It's not exactly the soft brush that I wanted. That was way off. Where'd my soft brush go? There it is. All right. All right, you could do it this way. Just takes a little bit more time. Okay, so that's that. All right, now let's see. Okay, now I'm gonna be doing value scale. Like I said, you guys can follow me along. It's just all it's gonna do is be beneficial to you and help you. Or you could just, watch and perhaps do it later if you want to. All right. No, stop. No, stop. Give me just a second, guys. Come on, go. Daddy be doing it in a minute. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, values. Alright, so now I'll just be going down the value scale. Alright. I'm gonna use a selection tool. Pick square. Alright. Actually, let's do this. Okay. So, just using the selection tool. And I'm going to start from dark. Alright. Okay, maybe I can't do that. Alright. Choosing low opacity. And just start making brush strokes. Yeah, probably a little bit more opacity. Starting from the darkest. Just working my way down in values. I'll grab a little more right there. This is great to do too. Like, it's actually better to do if you have like a pencil, because then you can get that more gradient and textured look. So I would definitely recommend trying this traditionally. And just get lighter and lighter and lighter. And lighter. And then to the point where it's like just white. So something like that. The important thing is you just want to have that transition. Almost as if it's fading. Okay, so let's see what else. Could actually draw like an object. Yeah. Let's take this off. You guys have any other questions? I'll go ahead and answer any questions or whatever. Hope it's not too boring. Try and make it as interesting as possible and educational at the same time. But this stuff can be, that's why that's why it's kind of tough to get down. It can be kind of repetitive and boring at the same time, but that's what makes great art. With the exception of imagination. You know, to have the core fundamentals, the foundation behind it all. That's what makes it read. Um, that's what gives it, the mood, the feeling, everything. Let's see. You're welcome. I guess do like a cylinder. I should just draw this out. Will there be any assignments due in the group? Uh, Really, the only assignments that I would see, anybody doing is like, just do your own thing, Take what you've seen or you've learned. Yeah, we could possibly hold challenges to see what people have gathered and what they've learned. Um, Basically it's all about just taking what you learn and applying it to studies and practice. Yeah, like practice shading, balls and cylinders and um, cubes, stuff like that. Yeah, certainly. um, I mean, all it's gonna do is help you more as an artist, improve and get better. So, I mean, the more you do, the more mileage you put into it, the more you'll see results. Yeah, yeah, definitely. That would be really cool. There are sections in the group if you guys want to join, and for those who have joined, you'll see that there's sections posted up. There's threads where I'll have I'll actually have a thread for each um, session that's covered, and you can actually post your work in progress, your studies, whatever you want to. Um, Questions if you have them, and then me or one of the co-leaders will get back with you, and we'll encourage you and give you critique if you want it. So I mean, this is all just I'm sharing with you, you're sharing with me, kind of deal. It's kind of your basic stream, but also like a class. And I just want to share whatever knowledge I have or whatever I've gathered with others, so we could all move forward, improve, and all that good stuff. So now I'm going to do a cylinder if you guys want to do one, if you want to follow along, or you could just watch. You can always just fill a surface in and go back through and just color pick if you want. Oops. The main thing is to know where your light is hitting and where your shadow is going to fall. That is the main thing. As long as you have that down, everything else just falls into place. I've explained that over and over again in my other classes too. So for the next class, I'll actually be going over more in depth with like materials, texture, and what else? Colors. So we'll be discussing that. And I'm teaching myself at the same time, so I'm not just teaching you guys. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning too. So I mean, I wanted to do this for myself, but you know, I wanted to also get others involved too. Whoever was, uh, wanting to improve, get better. It's just a personal journey of my own, myself. You guys aren't bored yet, huh? I feel like I'm a boring instructor. It's hard to make this exciting, especially like with the core fundamentals, because it can be kind of boring. The exciting, whenever you understand part is when you understand all this, and then you can apply it to, you know, your own stuff. That's where the excitement comes in. But you have to get through this first and foremost. Oops. Eventually, we'll be doing still life studies on here. So all this will be applied to that as well. It's a soda can. Just add a little detail, a little flair to it. So yeah, so just remember where the light falls to determine your shadows. Another thing you wanna like keep in mind is whenever you're creating something, keep the form. Try to keep them intact so it doesn't look too wobbly or off. Like this right here was kind of off. Because you want to give the illusion that something looks right. Because really all it is an illusion anyway. You're creating an object in 3D space. So you guys good? Is there anything else you would like me to go over? I mean, I can keep on doing this. We'll get into more, I guess you could say, more fascinating sessions soon, later. Are you guys still with me? Oh, crap. Hello? I didn't realize the thing crashed. Dude, I feel like an idiot. Man, this thing's good at making you feel like a moron. I'm like, are you guys still with me? Hello? 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 I'm starting to sound like Bueller. I'm like, man, I must be really boring. Like, man, maybe I need to. Yeah, like I had no idea, man, that I froze. I was like, are these people even in here? Are they still here? Like, man, I've already ran them off. But I mean, yeah, it can be boring. Trust me. But you know, it's just something you have to get through. Um, it's just something that you have to kind of bite the bullet. You know, yeah, it's not so easy. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Try to make it as interesting, as possible because I know this topic whole and can just be so dull, just dry. But I mean, once you get this down, then it's so important. It really is. I mean, it's boring, it's dry, but it's so important because once you get this down, then you know, you can really do anything. You can create any object, any form, perspective, and actually I'll be going over industrial. Later on, I'll be going over like personal design too. That's another one I wanted to touch on. Basically, how to create 3D objects in real space, or real objects in 3D space. Um, so that's another one that I really wanted to discuss. And basically, I'll give you a brief summary on it. Um, so hopefully this won't be so boring. It can be tricky though. Uh, Give me just a second, guys. All right. So I wanted to, I guess I'll go over this real quick, just to give an example of what I would like to discuss, and that's it's creating three or real objects in or 3D objects in real space. All right, and so basically it's like taking a line and then basically making like a square. Anyway, all right. This is something I've been like trying to figure out myself, but it's really useful. And what this is supposed to the what this is supposed to accomplish is being able to take an object from anything, putting it in 3D, like any kind of object, any like with it in any direction, like put it in any direction, like read it from any direction. Kind of like foreshortening. Yeah, I don't know, but I'll touch bases on that more later on. So anything that you guys have questions about or you want to see uh, as far as like core fundamentals go, anything you're curious about or like you want to practice your own, maybe I can cover it. Anybody, anybody, anyone, anyone. Anything, anything. Anywho, anywho. I gotta be honest, man. I don't like being so structured. Um, if you guys don't mind, um, you know, like I want to teach the class. I want to make it like for you to like understand, be able to understand it and follow along and everything. But I gotta be honest. I hate being like an instructor. I'd rather be just loose and just go with the flow and have you guys follow along with me and basically we just play around with what's being taught. You guys do your studies and practices, I do mine, and I just show you what you know what I know and techniques and all that stuff. I'm surprised I haven't fallen asleep in my own class yet. Well, for everybody that knows me, they know I like to be more, just kind of go with the flow kind of thing, whatever feels right. I mean, that's pretty much how I work in my art anyway. I pretty much go with what feels right, but I know I need to go back to the basics every now and then and relearn what I've learned. So that's what I'm doing, um, to have more of a solid foundation in my work. So that's what I'm aiming towards, and that's the whole reason I'm doing this. But I don't like to be such a stiff either. I don't like to sound like a robot. Finish classes. What do you mean? Yeah, there will be more. There will be more classes, a lot more. This is the very first one, so things might be a little rough around the edges, uh, maybe a little boring. Um, but this is really like the most important part is the core, the fundamentals. I know what I can do. Let's Yeah, Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, really all I want you guys to do is just take what you've seen here, learned here, practice yourself. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get better is practice and, practice and more practice and do your studies and, you know, learn from your mistakes because trust me, you will make several. and, it's all trial and error. This is just a breakdown, just a breakdown of it, covering everything that I have knowledge of, that I know of, um, and just going over it with you guys. Well, I really repeat myself a lot. I just love repeating myself. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. So, all right. Let's see. I mean, I could draw shapes all day. I really don't want to, but trying to think of what I can do here. It still touches bases on the core fundamentals, but it's not so boring. Another thing I would suggest is to not only go by this course, but also look at other tutorials, check out other people and other artists and see how they work. And, there's so much information you can gather and learn out there online just watching people. And just, do some research yourself, If there's something you want to know more about, research it. And I mean, that's how I did it. If I wasn't sure about something, I just research it and research it to death until, I understand it. I don't really want to go over colors. And that's a whole nother subject in itself. Yeah, I don't know. Textures and materials. I think I might want to hold off on those till the next class, till Thursday. So what I was wanting to do is on Wednesdays, and this is completely up to you guys, if you're up to it, is to do old master studies and basically, just grab, a piece, offline and, from an old master painter, whoever it may be, and bring it into your canvas and just focus on, you know, the old master's way, and focus on the values, the colors, the compositions. And I was want to do those like every Wednesday, because you know those are very important. Just see how they did it. And then like later on I'll be covering you know, yeah, I can pick a piece for you, or you can just, you know, you can pick one for yourself, or I can pick one and then have everybody do it. Have everybody do the same piece and see, you know, how everybody's, you know, turns out. You know, see how each one looks. But one thing I want to do is challenge you to not, and this might be tough, especially if you're just starting out, or you know, you never, if you've never done it. But one thing I want to do is challenge you to not take a whole lot of time on it. Basically, give yourself like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, but you know, no more than like, you know, 4 hours or 6 hours, nothing like that. The main idea is to understand what you're studying, is not to create a great, outstanding piece, but it's to take in what you're learning from what you're studying. The values, the composition, the colors, you know, how things are laid out, you know, the focus point, stuff like that. And then after you do your master study, you can feel free to upload it to the group, post it in the group section. I'll have a thread designated for that. I'll put that up after I get done with this. So I'll have one for master studies, and you can post it up. And then if you like critique, you know, critique or encouragement or whatever, you can post it up in the critique section, so others like myself and others can, you know, can view it and, you know, give you, you know, our thoughts on it. But it's constructive critique. It's not degrading or badgering or anything like that, because we're all learning. So don't feel, you know, uncomfortable or nervous or anything. You know, nobody's gonna judge. This is strictly for learning and getting better. And you're gonna fall several times before you're able to run. So I just want the best for everybody. I just want, you know, that's it. I just want the best for everybody.